Part 4 by Henry Gray, The Forebrain, Part 5. Structure of the cerebral hemispheres. The cerebral hemispheres are composed of gray and white substance. The former covers their surface and is termed the cortex. The latter occupies the interior of the hemispheres. The white substance consists of medullated fibers varying in size and arranged in bundles separated by neuroglia. They may be divided according to their course and connections into three distinct systems. 1. Projection fibers connect the hemispheres with the lower parts of the brain and with the medulla spinalis. 2. Transverse or commissural fibers unite the two hemispheres. 3. Association fibers connect different structures in the same hemisphere. These are, in many instances, collateral branches of the projection fibers, but others are the axons of independent cells. 1. The projection fibers consist of efferent and afferent fibers uniting the cortex with the lower part of the brain and with the medulla spinalis. The principal efferent strands are 1. The motor tract, occupying the genu and the anterior thirds of the occipital part of the internal capsule, and consisting of A. The geniculate fibers, which decussate and end in the motor nuclei of the cranial nerves of the opposite side, and B. The cerebrospinal fibers, which are prolonged through the pyramid of the medulla oblongata into the medulla spinalis. 2. The corticopontine fibers, ending in the nuclei pontis. The chief afferent fibers are 1. Those of the lemniscus, which are not interrupted in the thalamus. 2. Those of the superior cerebellar peduncle, which are not interrupted in the red nucleus and thalamus. 3. Numerous fibers arising within the thalamus and passing through its stalks to the different parts of the cortex. 4. Optic and acoustic fibers, the former passing to the occipital, the latter to the temporal lobe. 2. The transverse or commissural fibers connect the two hemispheres. They include A. The transverse fibers of the corpus callosum, B. The anterior commissure, C. The posterior commissure, and D. The lyra or hippocampal commissure. They have already been described. 3. The association fibers unite different parts of the same hemisphere and are of two kinds. Those connecting adjacent gyri, short association fibers. 2. Those passing between more distant parts, long association fibers. The short association fibers lie immediately beneath the gray substance of the cortex of the hemispheres and connect together adjacent gyri. The long association fibers include the following: A. The uncinate fasciculus, B. The cingulum, C. The superior longitudinal fasciculus, D. The inferior longitudinal fasciculus, E. The perpendicular fasciculus, F. The occipital-frontal fasciculus, and G. The fornix. A. The uncinate fasciculus passes across the bottom of the lateral fissure and unites the gyri of the frontal lobe with the anterior end of the temporal lobe. B. The cingulum is a band of white matter contained within the cingulate gyrus. Beginning in front at the anterior perforated substance, it passes forward and upward parallel with the rostrum, winds around the genu, runs backward above the corpus callosum, turns around the splenium, and ends in the hippocampal gyrus. C. The superior longitudinal fasciculus passes backwards from the front lobe above the lentiform nucleus and insula. Some of its fibers end in the occipital lobe and others curve downward and forward into the temporal lobe. D. The inferior longitudinal fasciculus connects the temporal and occipital lobes, running along the lateral walls of the inferior and posterior cornues of the lateral ventricle. E. The perpendicular fasciculus runs vertically through the front part of the occipital lobe and connects the inferior parietal lobule with the fusiform gyrus. F. The occipital frontal fasciculus passes backward from the frontal lobe along the lateral border of the caudate nucleus and on the mesial aspect of the corona radiata. Its fibers radiate in a fan-like manner and pass into the occipital and temporal lobes lateral to the posterior and inferior cornua. Desjardins regards the fibers of the tapetum as being derived from this fasciculus and not from the corpus callosum. G. The fornix connects the hippocampal gyrus with the corpus mammillare and, by means of the thalamo-mammillary fasciculus, with the thalamus. Through the fibers of the hippocampal commissure, it probably also unites the opposite hippocampal gyri. The gray substance of the hemispheres